God, he's back again. Brothers, sisters, everybody sniff. Gonna sniff the flavor, show you now. It's biting for you, better vote right now. Am I original Obama? Am I the only one? No Michelle. Am I sexual Biden? Am I everything you need? You better rock your body now. Joe Biden. Yeah. Joe Biden. Yeah. Joe Biden. Rock your body right. Biden's back. All right. All right.
You having a good time, Joe?
Now throw your hands up in the air. Wave them round like you sniff your hair. If you wanna party, let me hear you yell.
Why?
Cause we got it going on again. Am I original Obama? Am I the only one? No Michelle. Am I sexual Biden? Am I everything you need? You better rock your body now. Joe Biden. Yeah. Joe Biden. Yeah. Joe Biden. Rock your body right. Biden's back. All right.
Bring the whole family up. Come on.
All right. Joe Biden. Yeah. Joe Biden. Biden's back. All right.
I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
Yeah, good morning, Rise and Freedom. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. We're glad to have you here. It's time to rise and freedom. The Wake Up America show live 5 days a week, except for last week for some reason. Some kind of event. Did something happen here? Why was the show out last week? Yes, as you have heard, I have been called daddy for a long time now, but these days they call me father. That's right. The Wake Up America show's host, Austin Peterson. I am your father. Yes, baby Hazel came a week early. We expected her to go all the way up to her induction date, which was going to be this Thursday. Today was supposed to be like the expected due date, right, that they always set, but the babies come when they want to come until they don't want to come, and then you have to make them come. But thankfully, she did come.
Do not come.
Shut up, Kamala.
Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
Said baby Hazel. Yes, and she did come. In a beautiful 12-hour labor and delivery process. I mean, she came right on schedule. She, at least according to our typical schedule, because we're part of the 4 a.m. club. We woke up at 4 a.m. and like we normally do to get ready for the Wake Up America show. And Stephanie's like, I think, and we're like, okay, well, we got to go to the hospital then. So we got up, we had our stuff already packed and ready to go, threw our toiletries in the bag, and we headed out to the hospital. And, 8 or 9, 10 hours later, by the time we had gotten there, little baby Hazel was born, and she is a beautiful little, sweet, redheaded libertarian baby girl. Yes. Blue Trike, thank you for your $1 donation. Says, welcome back. Hope you had a good time with the new baby. Yes, she's absolutely gorgeous. Stephanie's so brave. She didn't have a single drop of medicine to help her get through that process. She wanted to do it as naturally as she could. We were in one of those rooms where they had the beautiful hot tubs and things that you could lay in. It's not like a jacuzzi, but it's like really like low intervention. So she didn't have like the spinal tap that they do to kind of, give them the pain killer medicine, the epidural, they call it. Thank you to Courtney Conover. Says, congrats to new parents. Enjoy every moment of this. Thank you. You guys are all about unlocking the bonus content today, I see as well. Don't forget that if we raise $60 by the end of the show, then of course you get today's bonus content unlocked, and you'll find out what the theme is when the bonus content is unlocked for the week. And after the 12 hours period, towards the very end of the day, she got in the tub and she used all of the natural intervention, like non-medical, not non-chemical interventions, things like eating sour candies to help take her mind off of the pain, and getting in a hot tub, and she had like a bouncy ball, like a yoga ball that she would like sit on to try and help with the pain. One of the things that really helped her too is that I brought in this massage gun. Have you seen these, where it's kind of like a vibrating massage gun? Used that on her lower back, also helped counter pressure. So I was there with her pretty much the whole time, almost all 12 hours. I had to just like step out and get some food and come back at one point. And I was there with her the whole time, holding her hand, cheering her on through this until the very end of the process, when she gave natural birth to my very first child, Hazel Rose Peterson, and she does have red hair. That was the one thing that we were hoping for. Now, they do say that it's possible for a child's hair color to change, which, yes, that is a possibility. But for now, at least, we are enjoying the beautiful little gorgeous redheaded libertarian baby there. Look at her with her beautiful little red hair. And some say, actually, that I picked her out of the sunflower patch. Found her in our little sunflower patch in the backyard and pulled her out. And then look at her little toe beans. So cute. Thank you, LDub78, for the donation. Says, to the creation of another liberty-loving family. Steph and Hazel. There we go. So Courtney says, not with her hair so orange it won't change colors. Yes, exactly. Another ginger. Does she have a soul, says Dad Bod Baboon. We don't really know at this point yet, so we're still waiting to determine it. But yes, gorgeous little baby Hazel she's ahead of the curve. So this morning, we actually found out that she lost the little sticky part of her belly button, the umbilical cord, and that fell off this morning. So she's already she's already advanced. It usually takes like 2 to 3 weeks, they say, but she had hers drop off after 1 week. She's starting to plump up real nice, and Stephanie and I are getting used to her thing. She doesn't like cry or complain unless her diaper is dirty, she's hungry, or she's like too hot or too cold or what have you. She wants to be swaddled. She communicates pretty easily with us. She's not screaming, crying for no reason. And we're having a lot of skin to skin contact, and we're just showing her as much love as we can, and really just enjoying the time this first week that we've had with her. I mean, I can't wait for the show to be over just so I can go home and spend more time with her. But somebody's got to make money in this family, and it's got to be me. Daddy's got to get a show going so we can make some cash. And thank you for Tony Martinez for your $10 donation. I just saw that come through as well. So we are $20, $40, $51 towards the $60 total today. You guys will get to watch the bonus content, I'm sure, by the end of the show. You can also visit 4libertyshop.com on the 4 Liberty Network and buy some cool merchandise, and that goes towards the total to unlock the content. There we go. So what are we going to talk about today? Obviously, we've got a lot to discuss. Kamala Harris becomes the presumed nominee of the Democratic Party for president of the United States, and she seems to be pretty happy about it.
I can first.
We've got to listen to that at a minimum for the next 4 months and potentially for the next 8 years.
No, God!
Hey,
no,
you don't like it?
please,
Don't vote
no,
for her.
No!
Kamala Harris
No!
threatening to unleash an army of childless Karen wine moms on this country to make all of our lives more miserable than they already do. We'll be talking about that this morning, and some of the battle that her and JD Vance have been going back and forth on. I saw Elon Musk made me laugh so hard because this parody video that came out, which is probably the best parody video that I've seen using Kamala Harris's voice in obviously an artificially intelligence altered way to parody a campaign ad. And people were saying that the ad, of course, is parody. And Elon Musk says, I checked with renowned world authority, Professor Suggon Deeznuts, and he said parody is legal in America. Whoa, that's good to know. I want to know who this professor is. Professor Suggon Deeznuts. I just gotta say that this is probably gonna be very awkward because later today, I'm supposed to do a meeting with a YouTube live stream analyst to talk about ways to grow your live stream audience on YouTube. Like I think that they're probably just going to ban me one day completely from the platform. So, and then when this video comes out today, I'm going to have to like have them analyze today's video, and it's going to be really awkward. But this is just how my life is. If you are anything to the right of Joseph Stalin, Silicon Valley is just, they're not your friends. Because a couple of weeks ago, this is a quick funny story, then we'll get to the news. A couple of weeks ago, I canceled a program that I had that I was trying to use to create videos for my products at forlibertyshop.com. And the company in Silicon Valley contacted me and said, "Hey, why did you cancel your this program? We'd love to have you as a customer." And I said, "Well, it's because everything that I want to do and talk about is illegal in Silicon Valley. So, I can't." Every time I would put in a product for it to produce like an AI video to advertise my product for, it would reject it and say, "No, you can't advertise a shirt that says Donald Trump, don't trust China. China is asshole." And anytime that I've noticed any live stream that I produced has the words Donald Trump in the live stream, it has to have a review in order for it to get approved for monetization on YouTube. And so I'm going to have this meeting with YouTube later, and they're going to be watching this video and listening to everything I'm saying right now, and they're going to be kind of like, naughty, naughty. So, yeah, I just don't know. I hope that there's a future for people like us, and maybe one day YouTube will believe in free speech for people like myself. But when your video is Dr. Suggon Deeznuts, I think it's pretty much like, yeah, I don't know if it's going to happen. Thank you to Nelson65 for the $10 donation. For Hazel, happy birthday. You rock, Nelson. Thank you. We unlocked the bonus content, and we are grateful for it. I'm glad to see all you guys here. Don't forget, if you haven't already, click that like button. We'd love to have you come back here and join us 5 days a week, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That is the show's schedule of the Wake Up America show. So if you're not a regular here, then we'd love to have you become a regular, subscribe, and like, and come back and join us on regular. Okay. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Kamala Harris versus Elon Musk. We're going to play that campaign, satire, parody, the battles between J.D. Vance and Kamala Harris. And I have got Vance Ginn, former economist under the Trump White House in the Office of Management and Budget in 2016. He's going to come on to talk us about all of the presidential candidates are touting their cryptocurrency plans. Like Donald Trump appeared at a Bitcoin conference or a crypto conference to talk about how he wants to protect Bitcoin and Bitcoin freedom. And then he talks, then you've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and he wants the federal government to take a stockpile of Bitcoin, which I'm kind of like, ew. And then there's what Kamala Harris and the Democrats want to do with Bitcoin, which you can imagine would, be something like this.
I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
I can first.
Okay, just calm down there, Kamala. We'll talk about your plan as well. Vance Ginn will join us at 8 a.m. Central Time, and we'll hear more from him about the cryptocurrency plans of the three major presidential candidates. Then I've just got a billion other clips and stories to talk about. I thought it would be wise for us this morning, since we are on a bit of a baby kick, and because J.D. Vance and Kamala Harris are having this battle over what J.D. Vance said a number of years ago about how we should not be ruled by the tyranny of childless cat ladies, which, I think anybody would probably recognize that would definitely be a bad thing. Who wants to be governed by Karens in this country? Apparently Kamala Harris supporters and the white male cucks who have shown their support for her recently in campaign ads. We're going to talk about that. I love the quote by Scott Adams, the Dilbert creator, where he says that the Democratic Party is the party of women and the men who are afraid of them. Yes, very true. Yes. So we will be talking about that with playing clips and all that. But I really like this video Since we're talking about babies and having kids and repopulating the earth, here's video that came out, resurfaced, of Kamala Harris talking about the future generations. Listen to this.
I've heard young leaders talk with me about a term they've coined called climate anxiety. Right? Which is fear of the future and the unknown, of whether it makes sense for you to even think about having children, whether it makes. I've heard young leaders talk with me about
So J.D. Vance posted this. He says, it's almost like these people don't want young people starting families or something. Really weird stuff. What are we talking about here? What we are talking about here is a concept called Malthusianism. Malthusianism by Thomas Malthus. Look it up later. It's a really good conversation to be had. And Malthus believed that the earth was overpopulated, that there were too many people on the planet, and that there needed to be a reduction in overall population. This is something that eugenicists have believed for going back over 100 years. The earth is overpopulated. And typically, though, the belief of eugenicists is that when they say that the earth is overpopulated, they don't necessarily mean by their children, if they have any, or the children of their particular ethnic or racial group. No, what they really mean is that the earth is overpopulated by people that are part of the racial or ethnic group that we do not approve of, if you know what I'm saying.
How
right?
dare you?
Right. People like Planned Parenthood's Margaret Sanger, who thought that it would be wise to go into the urban communities and to depopulate them for various reasons. That's right. They believe in a depopulation agenda now because they say because of climate change. However, the depopulation agenda has existed for far longer than people were talking about the question of climate change. Boy, YouTube is really not going to like this video when we review it later. Yikes. Might want to make a sizable donation today. I don't make a lot of money on YouTube, but I expect after this show it will be a lot less. We're going to be talking about the climate change question here in just a couple of minutes, but I have, let's see, where was this other? Oh yeah. So this is the post that J.D. Vance had made, and this is back from 2021 that everybody's attacking him over, right? That's saying that we don't want to be ruled by a country of childless cat ladies, and the cat ladies are very angry. Rare hiss, you know.
How dare you?
And I find this to be a funny story because, you know, we're not supposed to be attacking Kamala Harris or the childless cat ladies for wanting to be our overlords or to rule over us. But this video, this campaign ad parody, which I should remind is satire and edited by artificial intelligence. Again, later when we have the YouTube conversation, I know they're going to want me to mark this video as having elements of artificial intelligence included, and I will do so. But this campaign ad parody that Elon Musk shared was probably the best of the season, might be the best of the year. And Elon Musk says, again, he checked with renowned world authority, Professor Suggon Deeznuts, and he said that parody is legal in America. Let's take a look.
I, Kamala Harris, am your Democrat candidate for president because Joe Biden finally exposed his senility at the debate. Thanks, Joe. I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist. I may not know the first thing about running the country, but remember, that's a good thing if you're a deep state puppet. I had 4 years under the tutelage of the ultimate deep state puppet, a wonderful mentor, Joe Biden. Joe taught me rule number 1, carefully hide your total incompetence. I take insignificant things and I discuss them as if they're significant. And I believe that exploring the significance of the insignificant is in itself significant.
talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time, and there is such great significance to the passage of time.
Another trick is trying to sound black. I pretend to celebrate Kwanzaa, and in my speeches, I always do my best Barack Obama impression.
So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
Oh my God, dude, she is definitely trying to put on the Obama accent there.
And okay, look, maybe my work addressing the root causes of the border crisis were catastrophic, but my knowledge of international politics is truly shocking. The United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. It is an alliance that is strong and enduring. And just remember, when voting this November, it is important to see what can be unburdened by what has been. And by what has been, I mean Joe Biden. You think the country went to over the past 4 years? You ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh, God, good one from Mr. Reagan, USA.
I, Kamala Harris, am your Democrat candidate for president.
Well done. Now, while that may be very funny, we definitely want to take Kamala Harris seriously because Vice President Kamala Harris is edging former President Donald Trump in a hypothetical general election matchup. This is according to a new poll that was conducted after Joe Biden dropped out of the 2024 presidential race. The New York Times, Siena College released a new survey that found that Trump leads Harris by only 1 percentage point among likely voters, 48% to 47%. Among registered voters, Trump led Harris by 2 percentage points. Too close to call. The new results reveal a tightening of the race since Democrats changed their nominee when compared to a New York Times poll in July that found that Trump was leading Biden by 6 points. Now, I found this next story related to this quite interesting, this insane story from Seymour Hersh, famous journalist. Take a look at this. This is from Seymour Hersh. Apparently, Biden was allegedly threatened with the 25th Amendment by top-level Democrats. Here, listen to this. This is the story here. So apparently, Obama called Biden after breakfast on July 21st and said, quote, "Here's the deal. We have Kamala's approval to invoke the 25th Amendment." That's scary stuff. So a Daily Mail reporter who was in the traveling press pool said the president was deathly pale, and Air Force One flew at maximum speed to Delaware, where the president has a weekend retreat at Rehoboth Beach. I've been there. The press pool was told that Biden had COVID. Nothing more was said on Air Force One. After Biden's return to Delaware, the White House told the public that Biden had contracted a COVID infection and would be in isolation. He was said to have upper respiratory syndromes, a runny nose, a cough, and was fatigued. This was the last straw for a core group of congressional leaders, government officials, and some senior Biden funders who were withholding huge amounts of committed contributions. Quote, "There was pressure on donors to come across on their pending commitments. It was understood that Biden had a physical problem in Las Vegas." Excuse me. And the family was saying no to continued pressure from donors and senior Democrats in Congress to withdraw from the campaign. Initially, the president could not be reached, but by Saturday, July 20th, former President Barack Obama was deeply involved, and there was talks that he would place a call to Biden. It was not clear whether Biden had been examined or just what had happened to him in Las Vegas. Quote, "The big three," which is Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and the House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, continued to be directly involved. Quote, "On Sunday morning, Obama called Biden after breakfast and said, 'Here's the deal. We have Kamala's approval to invoke the 25th Amendment.'" Remember, you have to have all of the or a majority of the cabinet plus the vice president, and no person who is I think that it has to be unanimous. I'd have to double check that one there. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit slow this morning getting back into the show this morning. My brain's just getting geared back into work mode from baby mode. But here's what we have that's reported here by the Daily Mail from Seymour Hersh. "We have Kamala's approval to invoke the 25th Amendment. The amendment provides that when the president is determined by the vice president and others to be unfit to carry out the powers and duties of the office, the vice president shall assume those duties." Fascinating stuff there. So Joe Biden, was it because he was sick that they pushed him out? Or was it because his poll numbers were really lagging behind? That really is the question. And I'd be curious to get your feedback. I'd like to invite you to send us a text message today. Let us know what's on your mind. If you're listening to the Wake Up America show live this morning, good morning. We're glad to have you here. We'd love to earn your like if you'd click like on the stream and perhaps subscribe as well. If it's your first time joining us and you're enjoying this content, click that follow button or the subscribe button, depending on which channel you're watching us on, to grow the show and help us to build the Wake Up America shows for Liberty Network. We do have 2 new shows that are launching this fall for our upcoming network. Though, yes, it will be the Wake Up America show, as well as 2 brand new shows coming this fall on the For Liberty Network. It's not just going to be me anymore. So make sure that you subscribe so that you get all of the great updates. If you'd like to weigh in on what's happening on the show, maybe you're listening to the audio version of the podcast later on and you think to yourself, well, it's not live, so what's the point in texting? But I check the text messages pretty much all day, anytime during the day. If you're listening to the Wake Up America show later and you want to weigh in, or maybe you want to bring my awareness to a topic or a guest that you like, you can send us a text at that number on the screen, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586 is the text line. Again, one more time. Again, 573-319-1586. J.D. Vance takes shots back at Kamala Harris after she accused him of being disloyal to the country. Take a listen.
I saw the other day Kamala Harris questioned my loyalty to this country. That's the word she used, loyalty. And it's an interesting word, simplify, loyalty, because there is no greater sign of disloyalty to this country than what Kamala Harris has done at our southern border. And I'd like to ask the Vice President, what has she done to question my loyalty to this country? I served in the United States Marine Corps. I went to Iraq for this country. I built a business for this country. And my running mate took a bullet for this country. So my question to Kamala Harris is, what the hell have you done to question our loyalty to the United States of America?
A law black men in jail is what she did. Oh, God, YouTube's going to hate this video. Thank you to Courtney Conover for that $5 donation. We're grateful for your support. Appreciate you very much. Get those Rumble rants in today. We'd love to have your financial support to help us to grow the Liberty Network here. The For Liberty Network, that's right, is growing like crazy. It's been a very exciting month for sure as the Wake Up America show's For Liberty Network announced the launch of 2 new shows. But the For Liberty Network also has its own merchandise shop at For Liberty Shop. The Donald Trump Lives merchandise is insanely selling like crazy. Just going flying off the shelves. The Trump Defiant shirt you can get at forlibertyshop.com. The entire Courage Under Fire collection is available for sale at forlibertyshop.com. People love the Donald Trump Lives Japanese manga tee. The Donald Trump wa itikiru iru. Hai, arigatou gozaimasu. Donald Trump Lives Japanese manga tree. Nowhere else in the world are you going to find a picture of Donald Trump surviving his assassination attempt in Japanese manga style with the message on the left in Japanese in proper manga style, which means top to bottom. Donald Trump wa itikiru. Hai, ai, hai. Onegaishimasu. Ohayou gozaimasu. There you go. You can get those exclusively at forlibertyshop.com. Those are my designs. There you go. Trump Lives mugs. And this one actually was created by my employee at forlibertyshop.com. The MAGA bullet hole hat. Very clever. You might say to yourself, oh my gosh, Austin, that seems like a lot of money. But it is embroidered. It is not just some cheapo hat that you just print something on. It is embroidered MAGA bullet hole hats. People will really get a kick out of it. Like, what are those? Are those bullet holes on that hat? Oh, ha, 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 ha. You will be the coolest guy in the world. Or girl. Mighty Megatron, he got the Japanese manga tee. And everybody's been giving him compliments on it. I mean, that's so edgy and cool and unique. I mean, who else is going to have that shirt in your community? Anybody can just wear like a regular MAGA hat right? Anybody can wear just like a regular Donald Trump lives defiant courage under fire tee, but not anybody can just get yourself an awesome MAGA bullet hole hat or a Donald Trump Donald Trump lives patriotic t-shirt, right? We do have some cool trucker hats as well. Courage Under Fire with Donald Trump on there. So just so you know, it's not the original photograph. We can't use that for copyright version, so we created our own version of the Donald Trump lives fight Courage Under Fire hat. So get those at forlibertyshop.com, and we'll be very grateful for your custom. You ready to move on? I will say this, should you say, Post Malone say, you put your J say, you're the sunflower. There she is, my little baby Hazel. I just got to look at her every once in a while because she's just so pretty. Oh. Little baby Hazel. Can't wait for the show to be over so I can go back home to her and spend some time with my beautiful, smoking hot, redheaded libertarian wifey. That's right. We made a libertarian redheaded baby. You're welcome, by the way. You're welcome for making that beautiful redheaded libertarian baby. We're going to try and make another one. Yes. Voters in New York City were asked what Kamala Harris's accomplishments were as vice president. And here's what they had to say.
With Kamala Harris likely to become the Democratic nominee for president, we're out here asking New Yorkers what her biggest achievement has been over the past 3.5 years as a vice president.
I don't know. That's kind of the whole issue about her.
Zero. No accomplishments. She corrupted the country like her partner, Joe Biden. I don't think she has a snowball's chance in hell to become president. She couldn't even win the primary in her own state.
I haven't seen her do much, to be honest.
The Democratic Party is definitely going to have to start advertising what she can actually do for the country, because I don't think anyone knows.
I mean, with the whole Biden thing, I think all of us knew it was coming, right? It's been evident for the last how many years that he's not fit to be our president. Kamala's not any more fit to be our president either.
I love her. I hate that she has not able to show what she has done. I think immigration is still a little bit of a mess.
What else she's done?
See, that's New Yorkers there saying that, and they have directly dealt with the problems of mass migration in New York City. And their mayor, Eric Adams, has just been holding on to his butt. He has not been able to solve that problem. A lot of New Yorkers complain that. Even, see, that's a liberal New Yorker who loves Kamala Harris, who says that immigration has gotten out of control. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. Again, the text lines for the show are open. 573. They're open all day and all night. 573-319-1586. I see that people over in the chat, like John Rail, are saying we need to have a crib so Hazel can go to work with Dad. That would be nice. Welcome back, AP, and congratulations again on the birth of Hazel. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good news for you guys. You actually get to meet baby Hazel this week because Freedom Family Friday means that Justin Peterson is back on the show. Stephanie is back on the show because she's feeling fit as a fiddle. She feels great after everything. I mean, she kind of just snapped right back. We're going back to doing karate tonight and working out and eating healthy. And her mother, Verna, is in town, and we appreciate Verna's help as we transition to becoming parents. Thank you, Verna, my lovely mother-in-law. And so this Friday, baby Hazel will be on the show with the rest of the family. So Freedom Family Friday just got bigger by one. There you go. So let's continue to hear what New Yorkers are saying about Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign for president.
What is Kamala Harris?
Press right now is building.
What is Kamala? What is the Kamala Harris? Oh my God, dude! Hold on, did I hear that correctly? I got to hear that again. I like this liberal lady who loves her, but thinks that she's got a lot of trouble.
I love her. I hate that she has not able to show what she has done. I think immigration is still a little bit of a mess.
What else she's done? What is Kamala Harris?
Press right now is building her up like she's the greatest thing since the napkin or the second coming of Jesus Christ. It'll all play out. She's got.
I love this guy, man. The thing is that like yes, liberals overpower New Yorkers almost on a 2-to-1 basis, but conservative New Yorkers are just funny as hell, man. I knew a lot of conservative New Yorkers when I lived there, and they are just the funniest freaking people, right? Because they're not like New York conservatives are not like Midwest conservatives. Like here in the Midwest, when you think conservatives, right, they're polite, right? You know, like the Southern conservatives, like, oh, hello, well, bless your little heart. I love me some Jesus and some apple pie. Now, why don't you come sit down and have some sweet tea, sugar? Oh, it's just so nice. We'll see you after church on Sunday. But like, and here comes a little bit of language, but New York conservatives like, fuck that fucking half a blowjob, blah, blah, blah. Sorry for the language there. Hopefully Hazel is a little, not here. There's like, we'll get out of here. Can't stand Joe Biden. He sucks. Oh my God. It's like they're very coarse, the New Yorkers. Where do you think I got it from? Like I lived in New York and DC for 11 years. So coarse yet refined.
Nothing going for her other than that stupid laugh that she has.
The big argument.
That stupid laugh she has, dude.
I can first.
Conservative New Yorkers, man.
Yeah, she's got nothing going for her other than that stupid laugh that she has.
The big argument has been age, and that's now completely been inverted. That's a win in my book, but maybe that's where it ends.
Do you think she's going to be a good president?
Ooh, well, she hasn't been elected yet. If she were to be elected, it would just be up to her to, actually act on behalf of the people and not on behalf of big donors.
Not qualified. And, where she's going to be strong with this TikTok movement with all the young kids, because they have no idea.
When talking to junior high kids about, do you know, like, who is Kamala Harris? They don't even know who she is. And I'm like, no, that's our vice president. And so she's made no impact on the next generation at all.
Speaking of cackles. Ooh, that's good stuff. Those are conservative New Yorkers against Kamala Harris. TJ Moe posted this video yesterday of an interview that Kamala Harris did on 60 Minutes. Well, listen, maybe she is a powerhouse, an intellectual powerhouse. Let's take a listen to her talking a little bit about policy.
CBS poll found that at the beginning of President Biden's term, 70% of young people under 30, said he was doing a good job. Mm-hmm. Now it's less than 50%. Why is that? What's going on?
If you poll how young people feel about the climate and the warming of our planet, it polls as one of their top concerns. When we talk about what we are doing with student loan debt, polls very high. The challenge that we have as an administration is we got to let people know who brung it to them. That's our challenge.
What do you mean, brung it to him? What the hell is brung it to him? Is that a word? Maybe it is. Maybe she's brilliant and I'm an idiot here, but I always thought brung it to him was not the proper way to speak. Who cares? Nobody cares about that kind of stuff anyway. The new line of attack that the Kamala Harris campaign is leveling at J.D. Vance and Donald Trump is this.
You guys, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers.
She, her, and her? Mine too.
All right.
All right, first.
You guys,
J.D. Vance is weird.
Are she, her, and hers.
She, her, and her? Mine too.
Okay, pause for just a moment. So J.D. Vance retweeted this, says, quote, J.D. Vance is weird. That's the new line of attack that the Kamala Harris campaign is making against Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, is that they're weird. They're weird guys. Yes, they're very weird considering that they are the norm. They are what we call heritage Americans. J.D. Vance, though, is weird, but yet people like Kamala Harris and Chris Cuomo, before he got fired, say things like this.
And my pronouns are she, her, and hers.
She, her, and her?
She, her, and hers. Really? Oh, my God. YouTube is just really going to hate this video today. Why couldn't it be just a day where we just talk about like baby Hazel? If it was like Freedom Family Friday and YouTube was going to be analyzing my live stream, then I probably would be okay. But they're going to give me like such negative mark. I'm going to fail the test today. AP's going to fail the YouTube test.
Mine too.
All right.
That dude said mine too, because he's kind of like making fun of her, which I think is kind of funny here. On April of this year, a CNN roundtable discussed how Kamala Harris may actually be dragging Biden down in his bid for re-election. They seem to have changed their tone this day. Take a listen.
Interesting news. Recent focus groups conducted by the super PAC Republican voters against Trump found that swing voters don't like Harris And focus groups conducted by the Democratic National Committee also found Harris rubbed some people the wrong way. So, Jonah, how big a drag is Kamala Harris on the ticket?
I think she's a pretty big drag. I think she was arguably Biden's worst political decision of his presidency to pick her in the first place. And one of the special reasons that she's a drag is Biden's age concerns people. They worry that he can't fill a term. They worry that he's not up to the job. And so the vice president matters more than they normally do. I generally think going into the future that Democrats really should not nominate or front people who come from decidedly all blue states, unless they're like once in a generation talents like Barack Obama. Because Kamala Harris does not know how to talk to the center or to the right. She only really knows how to sort of speak the language of the base of the party, and that's 34% of the electorate.
Let me pick up on that, because it's not just focus groups that are down on Harris right now. In a recent poll, national poll, 40% approved of the vice president's job performance, while 55% disapproved. And Kara, to Jonah's point, given the fact that people are so worried, voters on all political stripes are so worried about Biden's age and whether he's going to last for 4 more years, is it a problem when they're not very satisfied or reassured by the person who would succeed him?
Doesn't really matter. She's not going to be replaced, and they don't like her. There's lots of reasons they don't like her, and I don't think the vice president matters as much as people think. I don't think they think about her unless...
With an 82-year-old president, it might
I get that,
more.
but right now, I don't think that's the first thing they think about is her necessarily. I just don't. I think they've not liked her. She's had not a successful vice presidency, although I don't know what that means at all, because I don't think people thought of Mike Pence very much, or Dan Quayle, or anybody else. And so it doesn't matter, because she's not going anywhere. He's not going to replace her. Think about that. Think about the earthquake that would cause. And so
I think Jonah's right, though, in the sense that she really does struggle with her communication skills. She really, really.
Well, it's so interesting you say that, because the vice president.
New York Times journalists, they're saying that. Again, you watch, if you go out and find these authors, the New York Times lady that was just here, and then who is this, Kara Swisher, podcast host, pivot and quote on, I promise you that they're singing a different tune these days.
It was just 1 year or 2 years.
By the way, isn't it weird to watch Chris Wallace on CNN? I mean, I guess the way that he was trending in recent years, it makes sense that that's where he would end up. But I was at Fox News when he was at Fox News, so it's just strange.
Whatever. But she has finally found her voice. One of the things that people objected to was her voice. They said they found her voice, especially her laugh, annoying.
I wonder why.
I can first.
Oh, dear.
You know, it is amusing, and I put in Google.
This Eliana Johnson, editor-in-chief. The Washington Free Beacon is a sort of right-of-center / neoconish blog that's very popular with Washington, D.C. insiders.
Kamala Harris finds her voice. It's not just it's not just the Harris team that's saying this. When you Google that, you get several articles by reporters. It is the media that's saying this, and about once every 6 months.
Yeah, well, the media is definitely changing their tune these days, as noted in this meme, which is sort of offensive to me, but it still makes a good point. Here we have NBC, Fox News, CBS, ABC, NPR, MSNBC, and CNN lifting her up with the caption, "Prop her up, boys. She can't do it on her own." Yes. What's up, Tolly? Thanks for the well wishes about baby Hazel. We're glad to see you here, Tolly, and welcome. Mongoose87 asks a good question. Do y'all think that they picked Kamala because the Democrats have screwed themselves and no one else with a brain will run this year? I think to a large extent, yes. I think they probably knew that there were stronger candidates, but that the financial question was too enormous because it was so much easier to transfer funding over to Kamala, and they had so little time, and that polling can be unreliable. So even if perhaps Gavin Newsom would have been a stronger candidate, the optics of taking Kamala off of the ticket and then trying to transfer everything over to a white male like Gavin Newsom, I mean, to a large extent, white men are the enemy of the Democratic Party these days, at least to their knowledge. They love the white men that they can control and that they can order around and that they can put in a box and that they can make sit in the cuck chair in the corner. But they only love them insofar as they can use them. But as soon as they are done using them, they will discard them. However, you cannot replace Kamala Harris, a minority woman, with Gavin Newsom, a white man, without the Democratic Party eating itself alive. You have to understand that until Joe Biden dropped out, this party was in absolute, total, and utter chaos. And to some extent, they still are, but they are much more organized and stronger than they were with Joe Biden at the ticket. Kamala Harris is taking over, is providing the Democrats with more unity that they needed, because the uncertainty surrounding Joe Biden's health was the major factor in keeping Democrats on their back foot and showing Donald Trump with commanding leads over Joe Biden in battleground states. Many of the leads that Donald Trump had have been wiped out due to the new Democratic frontrunner taking over from Joe Biden, including with many of the constituencies that Donald Trump was winning away from Democrats in polls. Black men and Latinos who had been trending towards Donald Trump started to move back towards the Democratic ticket now that they have a minority woman on the ticket, because, of course, many people vote for identity politics reasons, which is okay as long as you're a minority. But if you ever said what Democrats are saying about Kamala Harris, like I saw this 22-year-old kind of twink lefty guy took a picture, went viral the other day, where he's like, I'm a 22-year-old whatever, and I can't wait to vote for the first black woman for president of the United States. And it's kind of like, imagine if I had said, I'm voting for Donald Trump because he's a white man with blue hair with beautiful Aryan children. Do you know what that would... Actually, I did tweet that as a satire. But I guess people just don't think it's funny. So anyways, Academy76 in the chat says, so no official nomination in your own words. That's true. The nomination of Kamala Harris is not, quote unquote, official. Anything could happen between now and the convention date, which is supposed to happen in Chicago. I am hearing words about the convention being canceled or perhaps done over Zoom, which could potentially happen. Democrats don't want to have a contentious convention. They don't want protests outside. They want to lockstep themselves and to prevent there from being any potential challenger coming up to Kamala Harris. It is, of course, being whispered around that anyone who would dare challenge Kamala Harris would be destroying their career in the Democratic Party, which would probably be true. So Courtney Conover says that it's ceremonial. The candidate isn't even legally required to be there. Very true. So in terms of it being official, the delegates do have to certify the nomination. The delegates do have to certify the nomination. They could do that in person, or they could do that remotely according to the rules of the Democratic Party. Remember that the political parties are private parties and can set their own governing rules as they wish, and they can change those rules at the drop of a hat if they wish. If you've never been privileged to, or I guess, afflicted by visiting a political convention where there is a nomination process that goes on for president of the United States. I've been to many, many of those types of conventions. I can tell you this, that you can go into a convention with an expectation of a set of rules that would be followed, but, according to new rules that people will set, which they can introduce on the floor, or can be introduced sometimes even beforehand. Everything can change instantly based on whatever the rules of the delegates are that are set. And all of a sudden, you can be dealing with a completely different set of circumstances. So if enough of the delegates choose remotely to cancel the convention and have it remotely, they could potentially do something like that if the Democratic rules allow. The Democratic Committee, which is the group of people that oversees the Democratic Party. So the Libertarian Party has one of these. The Republicans have these. They have a committee that oversees the party. You have like the national chair, like Angela McArdle, who comes on Tuesdays for the Libertarians. And that committee could potentially have the power to cancel the convention themselves if the rules of the Democratic Party allow that. Right. So it's all very confusing and arcane, and it's very tumultuous how these things happen. So people always assume that the process by which presidential candidates are picked is democratic, but it's highly, highly undemocratic, especially within political parties, because these are private institutions Again, the Electoral College is not democratic. So you have to go all the way through a nominating process of a political party, and then you have to go to the ballot and get voted on by the people. But you don't get voted on. Your list of electors, your slate of electors get voted on. I know it's confusing. We're doing a little bit of Schoolhouse Rock this morning, and I'll try not to bore you with the details. Dad Bob Baboon says that 100% is not about what the people want. That is absolutely correct. But again, we are talking about President of the United States. So your local elections, they do matter. When you go and you vote for your congressman, or you vote for your local assessor, or you vote Chris Estes. But if you are voting for your local offices or your other federal offices, you are voting directly for those candidates. Now, that's not how it was initially intended. The 17th Amendment of the United States changed the voting system here in the United States to make it more democratic so that we, the people, do vote for our federal senators. But that is not how it was intended. The United States Constitution did not allow for the people to vote for federal senators. When the Constitution was written, that was changed in 1913. Again, I know I'm getting into Schoolhouse Rock territory. I'll try to kind of lighten it up here in just a second. We're going to have Van Skin joining us in a little bit less than 10 minutes. But it used to be that you would vote not for your federal senators. You would vote for your state representatives and your state senators, and your state representatives and state senators, they would be the ones who would vote for federal senators. And a lot of libertarians and conservatives think that we need to go back to that, which means less democracy. So when Democrats are like, conservatives don't even believe in democracy, I mean, they use that like it's an own or something. But, true libertarians, true conservatives have always been opposed to democracy. We believe in a Republican form of government, which means not one man, one vote, just like the Democratic Party has one Hillary Clinton, 10 votes, or 10 million votes, or Joe Biden, 88 million votes, the most in history. God, YouTube's definitely not going to like this video when we watch it later. We'll be right back with Vance Ginn to talk about cryptocurrency on the platforms on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. In honor of Vice President Kamala Harris's unprecedented and undemocratic rise to the nomination for President of the United States, the Wake Up America show's theme this week looks at vice presidents who became presidents. Let's consider today Chester Alan Arthur's brave, short presidency. Chester Alan Arthur assumed the presidency with low public expectations, unaware by many that he was dealing with a terminal illness while advocating for government reforms and tax cuts during his single term in office in the 1880s. On November 18, 1886, Arthur passed away in New York City at 56. His doctor, Dr. George A. Peters, publicly confirmed Arthur had Bright's disease, a kidney ailment, and had known for about 6 months that his condition was terminal. The New York Times verified from a former Arthur official that at least Secretary of State Frederick Frelinghuysen knew in 1883 about Arthur's terminal condition. Arthur himself likely knew of his fate about a year after taking office. The succession issue was significant because there was no vice president serving under Arthur after President James Garfield's assassination. Arthur had been a surprising vice presidential pick for Garfield at the 1880 Republican Convention. Arthur, a New York attorney, rose to prominence as a skilled public administrator during the Civil War and as collector of the Port of New York. He was closely associated with Roscoe Conkling, a New York political boss. Arthur, though not directly accused of wrongdoing, was removed from his port collector position by President Rutherford B. Hayes in 1880, causing a rift within the Republican Party. Hayes opposed the patronage system Arthur supported. This patronage spoils system required kickbacks from port employees that went to Conkling's operations. In a surprising twist, Arthur received the 1880 vice presidential nomination without Conkling's prior approval. Arthur became vice president and replaced Garfield within 6 months after Garfield's assassination in July 1881. As president, Arthur set an independent course for his remaining 3 years in office. Arthur fought the spoils system he once supported, advocated for tariff relief for businesses, and sought tax breaks for taxpayers. Historians speculate his diagnosis with Bright's disease in October 1882 influenced his reformist streak. Bright's disease, a term no longer used, indicated deteriorating kidney function and potential heart problems. Despite his illness, Arthur continued to work towards significant reforms. In late 1882, a New York Herald report about Arthur's disease was countered by the White House, attributing his condition to a malaria flare-up, demonstrating 19th century spin control tactics. Despite his declining health, Arthur championed reforms, signing the Pendleton Civil Service Reform Act in 1883. This act banned kickbacks in the civil service and made merit the basis for promotion and pay. Arthur also sought lower tariffs and reduced patronage to address the large government budget surpluses of the 1880s, aiming to lower tax rates and return money to taxpayers. Arthur was known for his refined tastes and successfully lobbied Congress for White House renovations. However, due to his illness, he made a half-hearted bid for renomination in 1884, losing to James Blaine. After Arthur's death, newspaper editor and GOP supporter Alexander McClure remarked, "No man ever entered the presidency so profoundly and widely distrusted, and no one ever retired, more generally respected."
Biden's back, all right!
Welcome to the world, Joe.
Joe Biden, yeah. Joe Biden, yeah. Joe Biden, sniff your body right. Biden's back, all right! Oh my God, he's back again. Brothers, sisters, everybody sniff. Gonna sniff the flavor, show you now. It's Biden for you, better vote right now. And my origin.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're glad to have you here. It's time to rise and freedom here. The Wake Up America show streams live every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. It's a 2-hour morning show, tour de force of economic freedom and personal liberty. So if you love those American values, then you're definitely in the right place. Well, cryptocurrency, after years of being in the wilderness and of politicians talking about banning cryptocurrency, many of them who are now getting donations in cryptocurrency have suddenly changed their minds. The three major presidential candidates, Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., now all talking about cryptocurrency and what they will or won't do if they become the next president of the United States. Joining us now to discuss is an economist who worked under the Donald Trump administration. His name is Vance Ginn. He's a regular guest on the show, and we're glad to have him here. Good morning, Vance. Nice to see you again.
Hey, good morning, Austin. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Glad to have you here, Vance. So cryptocurrency, it's all the rage these days. And now the presidential candidates are working it into their platforms. It used to be something that politicians were very skeptical of. Most of the times, whenever something is new, people are afraid of it, and therefore they want to ban it, and politicians typically jump on the bandwagon. But once donations, sizable donations, started to flow into the coffers of the politicians, they've changed their minds. Talk to us a little bit about the transformation of cryptocurrency in the minds of the body politic.
Yeah, Austin. I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head, is that you have rent seeking, if you will, donations and everything else starts heading in one direction. And so the politicians, being the politicians that they are and wanting to win re-election, they start moving in that direction. It's a price signal for them when they see that money flowing. and look, I'm in favor of cryptos. I'm in favor of Bitcoin and others. I think we need competitive currencies, especially when the Federal Reserve is killing the value of the dollar, the U.S. dollar, and putting it in the ground and all of our savings and everything else with it by depreciating the dollar and everything else. I'm just, concerned about more politicians getting involved and governments getting involved, what that will do with Bitcoin, because we've already seen what it's done to the dollar, Austin.
No, we certainly have. But perhaps most interestingly of all, Donald Trump appeared at a Bitcoin conference this last week to talk about his plans for the cryptocurrency. What's Donald Trump saying he would do when it comes to crypto if he wins?
Yeah, so there's this idea now of kind of stockpiling cryptos, Bitcoin in particular. There's also a bill by Senator Loomis who is also talking about doing something along these lines. And there's a lot of talk out there on social media about what this will mean. Now, we need to see the details and everything else. But so far, what I think it means is that the Treasury will actually purchase or exchange out some of their debt with Bitcoin. So that way it's backed by Bitcoin instead of the US dollar and government debt and everything else. And that sounds good on the surface, but remember, a lot of that's also held by our Federal Reserve, the central bank of the United States. They've got about $7.2 trillion in assets on their balance sheet. So there's also some discussion about swapping out some of those assets on their balance sheet with Bitcoin. But then the central bank owns Bitcoin. And so do we want them infiltrating that market, the Bitcoin market and others like they have in other markets? And so I think if there's a way to do it to you can get more, backed more by Bitcoin compared to US debt, our fiat currency system, then there's a good discussion to be had there. What I'm worried about is that this is just another mechanism for the government to get involved with Bitcoin, and it's going to make Bitcoin worth less over time.
Yeah, I'm concerned that if the federal government comes in and takes a position in Bitcoin, first of all, that's stolen money that they're taking and investing in. And
they have no money, right, Austin? They have no money.
Yeah, that's not their money to be investing in, by the way. And second of all, they could then use it to manipulate the market, just like, kind of like how Nancy Pelosi manages to be the best a better stockbroker than what's his name, Warren Buffett. I don't know how she became such an incredible stock picker. But I would be deeply concerned about if all of a sudden one day the federal government declares us their enemy, Bitcoin holders, they could use their vast stockpiles to flood the market. They could make vast purchases to influence it up or down. It's definitely the kind of thing that I don't want the federal government doing. Now, I've seen local governments do it. I think there was one here in Missouri, for example, where this small town mayor took a portion of their finances and invested it into Bitcoin. But, that's just the kind of the federalist in me. If the localities want to do something like that, it makes sense. But I do not trust the federal government at all with our tax dollars. What about you, Vance?
Amen. I agree. Yeah. And other states are doing this too. Michigan has already started to stockpile a little bit of Bitcoin as part of their portfolio. There are other states that are kind of heading in this direction. Even in Texas where I live near Austin, Texas, there's a push to get Texas to stockpile some Bitcoin. But Texas already has a rainy day fund of about $23 billion, and it continues to grow. There's also a gold bullion depository that's in Texas. And so maybe if some of those are swapped out with Bitcoin, since those are already monies that are sitting on the side, that could be a good thing. But to your point about federalism and the bigger point about how none of this money is the government's money, no matter if it's the federal government or the state money or local, it's all taxpayer money. And so is that money better used, quote unquote, used by the government through Bitcoin or other assets, or in the productive private sector? I want as much money in the productive private sector so that people can flourish and everything else. And so this is a big concern that I have. I know that I think just real broadly, Austin, I really want to make the case that I think we need competitive currencies. I think we need Bitcoin to compete with the US dollar, with the euro, and other things that are out there. My bigger concern is that government getting involved is going to make that situation more difficult and make it more harmful for the Americans and the US economy.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, the gentleman I'm speaking to right now, Vance Ginn, is an economist who served in the initial Trump administration in the Office of Management and Budget. We're going to talk to Vance today about the plans that presidential candidates are floating in regards to dealing with cryptocurrency. The major initiative that many of them are promising is to create a national Bitcoin stockpile using our tax dollars to create a stockpile of these cryptocurrencies. But another portion of this that I'm reading in the Wall Street Journal is that Donald Trump adds crypto to his America First agenda. He wants to create a national Bitcoin stockpile and form a council to set regulatory policy. That sets my alarm bells going off, Vance. What about you?
Same. Yeah, I echo your concern. Anytime you have some sort of board, we can see what happens within government is that it's a slippery slope for them to take more control over whatever that market is. And in this case, in the Bitcoin market. And with Bitcoin and these cryptos, there's the blockchain technology. I think there's so much it's going to be part of the economic revolution that's going to make us more secure with our data and our privacy and everything else. And why would we want a board to start determining what's going to happen in Bitcoin or blockchain and other things? And even some from the Bitcoin side, which are some of my friends, I think they feel like maybe this is giving them some prestige, some respect, that's saying, look, Bitcoin is a part of the discussion happening nationally. To your point earlier, Austin, has been put on the sidelines for so long by politicians wanting to ban it and not know what it's going to be about and what it's going to do. And now they're all jumping on board. So that feels like a good thing, but trade-offs are important. Thomas Sowell said there are no solutions, only trade-offs. And these are going to have massive trade-offs through our economy. And so I'm really concerned about this board that Trump would put in place.
Now, Vance, I'm not an economist or a scholar, and all I am is a failed musical theater major, semi-literate with a basic understanding of politics. But in the question of the money supply here in the United States, at least from what reading I have done on these topics, it seems to me as if people really take the question of money for granted, meaning that most people don't really know what money is. And if I understand things correctly, we aren't really even allowed to determine or to figure out what good money is because of the way government controls the creation of money. In other words, there could be some form of currency that could emerge spontaneously in the market. Maybe it's a cryptocurrency, right? A digital payment system. Maybe it's not. But because of the way the government regulates and controls the supply of money with their partners in the Federal Reserve, we don't know. We're not allowed to find out what good money could be. It could be pieces of paper, but I think for the most part, it's just the strict amount of control that the banks have, the cartels that are set up to control the money supply via the Federal Reserve, and the fact that unions sit on the board of the Federal Reserve, which what the hell does a labor union want to have to do with a bank? But for some reason, we're not allowed to find out what good money could be. You talk about competing currencies. I mean, Indians used seashells back in the day and beads as a currency. Maybe that's what Americans want, but we can't even figure out what it is because it's so highly regulated.
Yeah, great points. And even though you're not, necessarily a scholar, I think you're a scholar, Austin, but you do know how to pick out good shirts. That's for sure.
Hit the applause button, laughter.
Yeah. But no, you're exactly right. I mean, in Germany, whenever they had the concentration camps and everything else, you know what they were using for currency? They were using cigarettes for small exchanges, and they were using cognac for large exchanges. We always figure out as humans ways to interact. It's in some of it's barter economies, which have a high opportunity cost. It's very costly to figure out who wants what and what the values of different things are. And so we move to more currencies as a medium of exchange. And I'm big on the Austrian School of Economics. I don't think we need a central bank. I don't want them manipulating interest rates and the money supply. But you're right that we also can have different forms of currencies. One day, Austin, I would love for us to have a free banking system like we had during the 19th century that allows for private institutions to issue their own currencies and then allows them to compete. And whichever one is stronger, those are the ones that are going to do well, and the other ones are going to fall off.
Vance, wait.
Okay, too much.
Hold on. I read a political cartoon from the late 1800s in the 19th century, and they said that that the states had banks that were setting up their own currencies, and it was confusing, and no one knew what the value of the money was, and the Federal Reserve was proposed as a Federal Reserve Act to help to streamline transactions in the United States, and that without a central bank, that these stupid morons in the United States would have no idea what to transact with in order to buy goods and services. Aren't people just too stupid to be able to deal with multiple currencies, Vance?
Well, the way to do that is through competition, not by government controlling things, because if the people are too stupid in the marketplace, they're certainly too stupid in government. it's too small a number of people trying to influence and control the overall market. I'd rather people out there in the marketplace decide what's going to be best compared to people in government. And so I'd like to get back to that. We've got a long ways to go. And, Ron Paul used to talk all the time and still does. I listen to his podcast often, like I do yours. And he talks a lot about money coming out of thin air. And that's exactly what the Federal Reserve is doing, is they buy assets in the market, they print money into the economy, and then that creates money out of thin air. But it really is about, do we hold that currency enough value to have as a medium of exchange? And more, a lot of other countries across the globe are selling off their dollars. They don't feel like we have the credibility in America that we once did. And when we have $35 trillion in national debt and the size of the Fed's balance sheet, the Federal Reserve's balance sheet, which is quasi-government, right? It was created by Congress. It's funded independently by private banks. So it's this quasi sort of situation. They still have $7 trillion on their balance sheet, which is about 25% of our overall economy. And Austin, before the Great Financial Crisis in 2008, their balance sheet was $800 billion. We've went from $800 billion to $7.2 trillion. At that time, that $800 billion was only 6% of GDP. And now we're at 25% of GDP. So if they went back down to 6% of GDP, we would go to $2 trillion on their balance sheet instead of the $7 trillion today. I say all that to say that we have too much control by governments, quasi-governments of our economy. We need less of that throughout the marketplace, and that includes things like Bitcoin.
Now, here's the thing. My musical theater degree does come in handy for some of these conversations, Vance. I mean, you might remember a song that was very persuasive in getting people to accept the modern monetary system. You might have heard it. It was called 16 Tons. And here were the lyrics by Tennessee Ernie Ford. It went, "You load 16 tons, what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't call me 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store." What was he singing about? He was singing about a system whereby coal miners in West Virginia and other places around the country, they created their own private currencies in these small company towns that were essentially owned by these corporations, right? Private corporations like the Federal Reserve to some extent, right? Although it is quasi-government. They were creating their own currencies, issuing those currencies to the miners, but that currency, they would pay those coal miners in that currency, Vance, and then they would say, okay, well, this currency is only available to be spent at the company store owned by the company, which can then jack up the prices and make them whatever they want, essentially putting these people into some form of, I won't say monetary slavery, but it's something damn near indentured servitude. And the Federal Reserve System was meant to protect the American people from being predated on by corporations that would force them into a currency system that they could only spend on shops that were owned by the corporations. How do you respond to that?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, yes. And that's why the Federal Reserve, so they were created in 1913. That was the Federal Reserve Act. Was that after the Aldrich Commission and this banking sort of failure that happened in 1907? It was to be a lender of last resort, not to help to grease the wheels of the economy and do all the other stuff that they're doing today, but it's a slippery slope. Just like you were saying with these private institutions issuing their own currency, and then they just want you to buy everything with their own currency and create other problems within that market. The Federal Reserve has done the same thing to our dollar and to our economy and made us poor in the process. I mean, the dollar has lost more than 90% of its value. If you just look at the share of the cost of living going down over time, it's lost more than 90% of, I think it's like 98% of its value. That's massive. And the same thing happens whenever you get government involved in anything. I know Milton Friedman, he said that, if we put government in charge of the Sahara Desert, we would have a shortage of sand. Because they would use it all. That's not their money. They do something else with it that is not resourceful or efficient or effective. And that's what happens. And that's what would happen in this case. So we could come up with these. I loved your little tune, by the way. That was awesome.
No, but I mean, it just that what you say there about Milton Friedman, if you put the federal government in charge of the Sahara Desert, there'd be a shortage of sand. I think that applies to Bitcoin as well. If they take if the federal government takes a stance in Bitcoin, they take a position in Bitcoin. It's not like I'm saying that we're gonna run out of Bitcoin, but to some extent, you can expect them to either manipulate or to destroy the innovation in cryptocurrency if the federal government is involved. Do you agree?
Yes. That's my big concern, is that they would get too involved. They have this regulatory board that overregulates it. And there's so much beauty to Bitcoin, in my view, and the blockchain and everything else. Like we talked about here today, there's only a set number of them that are going to be created. And then that's it. So it's not like the Federal Reserve just continuing to print more money and increase their balance sheet. And so all of those things help to bring about more a scarcity situation for us to allocate through prices. And when government gets involved, all those prices are then distorted. And that's what creates more problems, not only with Bitcoin, but throughout the economy, as we see in our economy today.
I'm reading the Financial Times this morning that the Kamala Harris campaign seeks a reset with crypto companies. The Democrats have not necessarily been a friend to cryptocurrencies, but it sounds as if the Harris campaign may be looking for an opportunity to get involved with the community. What do you expect in regards to cryptocurrency if Kamala Harris becomes the next president of the United States, God forbid?
Yeah. If I don't know that I can quite fathom how bad that would be. I'm lost of words, which doesn't happen very often, Austin. But I think it would be a terrible thing. And it's interesting to see where the money flow is coming from. Because why is Kamala getting so involved in this now? Right before the election and everything else. Maybe it's the younger generation who wants Bitcoin and everything, so they're trying to appeal to those voters. But then you have Trump that's jumping in. You have some of these other states that are jumping in. But I think this was to be a bad situation. I mean, typically, I tend to think that the regulation from the Republicans oftentimes will be better than from the Democrats, but it's still going to be over-regulation either way. And so I don't want Kamala Harris or anyone getting more involved with Bitcoin. It's kind of interesting to me too, Austin. Like, I've had some good debates with those who are big Bitcoin supporters, and they've been saying, look, this could be a good thing for Bitcoin over time. So I want to give them credit for that with government getting involved. I'm very cautious. To your point earlier, usually you don't let government get involved in things, and I think this is another one that we don't want them to get involved with.
Now, you had sent me another story, Vance, that you were keen on discussing, and I for some reason my screen went blank there, so I can't find it. You had something else that you wanted to bring up today to discuss as well, didn't you?
Yeah. There's a couple things. One is that when we talked about this previously, there was a good article by Andy Kessler. It's an opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal called "The New Right Looks Left." And it's about just the new right in general and the direction that's going. I'm working on a piece right now that I'm pitching around to try to say, hey, look, we've got to be concerned about where the new right's heading with tariffs, more government spending, stronger labor unions, basically the old progressivism. They're calling themselves, quote unquote, the new right. But really, to me, this is the old progressivism down the road to serfdom. And I think that Trump has got to be careful about going too far down that road with J.D. Vance, and more people are looking out for that. You have the folks like American Compass at Oren Cass at American Compass. You've got several others who have been moving more in this direction of national conservatism. And I think it's something we've really got to be concerned about their anti-growth sort of policies, and even their rhetoric tends to be anti-growth. Recently, J.D. Vance talked about, cat women and how we should tax people who don't have kids more than those that do. And by the way, our tax system already does that because of the child tax credit, another thing that's in there. But I think you would want to do even more of that. And all this goes back, Austin, to socially engineering people's actions and behaviors by one as big as you know, having a kid. I've got 3 kids now. I don't want government involved in that. And big tech and everything else they want to get more involved with. Again, we're going to dilute the job of parenting and being dependent on government instead of parenting doing what's best for their kids. And all this goes into play with what the national conservatives and a lot of the new right want to do.
I agree with you in principle, Vance. I absolutely do. I think, in theory, you're absolutely correct. I think in practice, in practical politics, if I have to choose one approach or another, I would much prefer the Republican approach to the Democratic approach. If you're going to endorse one side or another, I would much prefer to have the pro-family approach to the pro-child drag queen approach. And if I have to make that decision, and that's the choice that we have at the ballot box this year. That's the reality, whether we like it or not. But what I think is the way that I'm starting to look at things in terms of my practical politics, Vance, is to also just remember that the president of the United States is not a dictator, and they don't get everything that they want. They, you know, even despite the fact that Kamala Harris has announced that she's going to use executive actions to ban assault weapons, right? And sometimes they get away with it. A lot of times they don't. The courts step in as a check on the power of the executive branch and have shown that they're willing to do that to a large extent. Typically, the presidents of the United States only get a very small amount of their agenda or their way. What they really are doing oftentimes with things like this, they may make these proposals, but there's no real popular support in Congress for ideas like those. Like the only thing that they can get popular support for of a majority of people in Congress is to do something like ban TikTok, right? Which does look like it's going to go forward by next January, by the way. And, you know, whether or not you or I agree with something like that, you know, the ends or the means, at the end of the day, I do think that it is a Chinese spy app that they use to commit espionage against the United States. And there is a question that has to be asked. You know, libertarians are not good on the national security question. We have to ask ourselves, is espionage something that's protected by the First Amendment? I think the answer to that is definitely not. So we probably better have better answers for the problems that we face, especially when it comes to the fact that the United States, whether it's by people getting terrified because of the Malthusian leftist agenda of the global warming cultists who are terrifying kids and telling them not to have babies, but we definitely need to have a conversation. And I think J.D. Vance and other Republicans who are national conservatives are starting this conversation about what kind of cultural values should we support as Americans. You know, social conservatives, especially Nat Cons, will attack people like us and say, well, John Adams said that the United States is, you know, that the Constitution is for a moral people with values and it's not for anything else. I'm bastardizing John Adams. And it is something that I wrestle with, Vance. This question, because it does seem as if being debauched, a nation's values being unsanctified to a large extent, that it does lead a nation to ruin, that the cultural values of the United States does. And listen, I'm not a social conservative, right? I may play one on TV, but I very, very have my social values are very libertarian.
Yeah. But
at the end of the day, not everybody can be a childless cat mom. I want to live in a country where childless cat ladies can live in peace with the Amish farmers with 75 children, right? I want to live in that kind of country. To do that, you do need to that's a libertarian social order, but our pendulum has swung so far to the left where the left is going into the schools, indoctrinating our children. I want to abolish the Department of Education. If we can't accomplish that, Vance, is it not better to teach our children American values and to take the drag queens out of the preschools and the kindergartens and things like that, to advance those values, to protect our children, if we're not able to agree on something like let's abolish the Department of Education?
Yeah, I think so. And you know, great points there as usual, Austin. And I think that's one reason why, or it is one reason why I'm so big a supporter and write about this and do research and op-eds on the importance of a universal school choice. And for this last point you're bringing up, but so that way you can choose how you want to educate your kids the best. And not everybody's going to make the best decision for their kids from a third-party observer saying that, you know, you should be doing different for your kids, but it does give them the power to do so. Kind of bringing this all together is that I think it's about who decides. Who decides what currency we use? Who decides how you want to bring up your kids? Who decides, what type of parties you want to have? Or at the French Olympics, they want to make up this thing about the Last Supper, and everything else. I don't want government deciding those things. I want people in the marketplace through spontaneous order and the beauty that happens in free market capitalism with limited government. I want those people to decide, compared to this top-down approach. And so I agree with you that the Democrats will tend to go way too far on economic issues and everything else. And even they're doing a lot of the protectionism and everything else. I just want to make sure that on the right, we don't go too far down that route, because then what's the difference? Does it matter if we're voting for the progressivism of the left or the right? What does it matter? I think that there are key differences that you brought up some of those just now, but there are key differences like tax cuts deregulation that I think Trump was huge whenever I was there and will be huge in the future. But I do have concerns about the government spending and the debt that's going to create over time and some of the tariffs. So let's make sure that we're as free market and as pro-growth policy as possible for people to prosper.
Yeah, no, I agree, Vance. It's the funny thing about the NatCons and their supposed takeover of the GOP is that J.D. Vance has pledged that he's not going to be raising anybody's taxes. So I mean, like the funny thing is, and of course, they've also pledged they're not going to touch Social Security or Medicare and Medicaid. And as you and I well know, if nobody does anything about it, that house of cards is going to collapse on its own. They're just going for an electorally viable position in order to try and get elected. But I do think that what happens a lot of times with these people, and especially when it comes to Trump and maybe even J.D. Vance, because if you read J.D. Vance's positions anytime before, when they call him his never Trumper years, the dude sounded libertarian as hell, right? He was a down the line, like Ron Paul style libertarian for a number of years before he recognized that this political populist train and these national conservatives were, of course, much more popular than libertarianism. And libertarianism started dying out after the Tea Parties when it started to die off, and they were taken over by many of them by neocons. We don't need to go through the political history of the recent years. I think most people understand this. But what I think is happening is that, and go with me here, Vance, I know this is going to be shocking, but they're lying.
Yeah.
What they're saying is they're saying things to get elected.
Yeah.
Right. And in some ways, I guess this is really the philosophical question that I've been struggling with, Vance. And I've run a couple of political campaigns. And I can tell you, as someone who does not believe in democracy, despite the Democrats' best efforts, that I can tell you that the best argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter. I will tell you that the big question is the noble lie. Right? The noble lie. Now, are you and I smart enough to accept the truth? Absolutely. I can handle the truth.
Yeah.
I have people in my life who I love very much, but I can't tell them everything even when they ask me. Because they just don't have they're perhaps a bit too emotionally sensitive. Does my butt look big in these jeans? I'm not talking about Steffi.
Yeah.
But is it a noble lie to say to one's loved one, you look amazing in those jeans tonight, darling? So if one were to extrapolate to the general public, and if one were to accept the fact that you and I do not believe in small d democracy as it understands it, if J.D. Vance and Donald Trump say, we're not going to touch Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, but then they go all Paul Ryan on that when they actually get into office, Vance, do the ends justify the means?
It's possible, yeah. It certainly could. I mean, if that is where they want to go, and we need to. Unfortunately, I do know that that's politically unpopular. And let me put it this way: put some meat on the bones, if you will. When I was there at the White House from June 2019 to May of 2020, because after the shutdowns and everything, I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to get back home to Texas. Okay.
Yeah.
But we were working on the second term sort of ideas that we wanted to work on. And we were working on ways to reform Social Security and Medicare, because it's basically like, look, this is a second term. There's not going to be a third term. We could do more of this now. And that it could be something now that Trump could do. Look, this is his second, quote unquote, it's his second term. There's no terms after this. So to your point, he can say this stuff going into it, but then actually run things differently and argue, look, these are the facts on the ground. If we don't do something about Social Security and Medicare, you retirees, you are going to have huge benefit cuts. Do you want benefit cuts? I don't want that to happen. Let me make some reforms that will help you keep yours, but maybe youngers are going to have to, put in a little bit more money, or they're going to have some other changes to make sure that these programs are solvent and not draining the budget over time and putting us all in bankruptcy. And so I think that there are going to be some concerns that should be addressed. So maybe that's a way to get into office, to your point, politics and everything else.
Listen,
make changes later.
If the gays for Gaza show up to my house and they're like, you're hiding Jews under your floorboard, aren't you? I'm going to tell them, No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna grab my beautiful AR-15 and I'm gonna start wasting them if they try and take the Jews out of my house. Van Skin, these are great conversations, and I'm really glad. I'm glad to hear you be honest about that. The ends justifying the means, because what I find so often is that libertarians, they tend to, when it comes to the question of principles, they are rock solid, but when it comes to the questions of tactics, please pardon my French of the Olympics, but they fucking suck.
Yeah.
We do not understand the tactics that are necessary to get our principles across the finish line. I don't think we're going to be lucky enough to have a Javier Milei who is able to be exactly who he is and get across the finish line in an electoral circumstance, because we would all be unfortunate to be in the situation Argentina is in at this moment, where the reason why somebody could be honest and be exactly who they were as a libertarian anarchist, if you will, and bring libertarian principles to bear is because they are so desperate, they are so starving that they will run from socialism. They will run like hell from socialism in their countries and embrace the principles of free markets and economic liberty. I hope that we don't have that luxury, if you will, Vance, of being in the situation as Argentina as it is. But as it is, I find myself more and more in line with Niccolo Machiavelli and reading The Prince and understanding that it's not about a guide about being fascist or about taking control, but it's about how to survive in a political environment that wants you dead, your family's dead, your ideas and your principles dead. I mean, you know, libertarians, of course, being big on being anti-war, you know, they talk about the war in Vietnam being a terrible tragedy and being awful, and it certainly was, and was probably one of the worst blunders in American history. But I do remember the words of G. Gordon, and we were fighting communism, if you will, which is an evil and hateful ideology. And if you look at the difference between North Korea and South Korea, I don't think there's a person on this planet outside of the communists who think that, oh, it would have been better for North Korea to take over South Korea and for South Koreans to be starving like their neighbors. So I guess one must ask yourself if G. Gordon Liddy was right. You can't kill an idea. That is true. But you can kill everyone who holds that idea. Vance, anything else that you want to share before we let you go, friend?
Oh man, those are wise words, man. Just last thing, we need to watch what happens in Venezuela. They just had a big election for Maduro and everything, and it looks like he's claiming that he won, but there's a lot of other data that's coming in that's saying he didn't win. So watch that, because that's socialism, that's dictatorships. That's not where we need to be. We need more of the Javier Milei's in Argentina to go toward that direction, and I hope that we will as a country. It may take a while, but that's what we need to do. And be sure to find me out at vancegin.com and my Let People Prosper show on all the major platforms, and on X at Vance Ginn. So it's always a pleasure with you, Austin.
Hey, thanks so much, Vance. These conversations are great. They're not like any other conversations that you can hear on other shows other than maybe your own. Let People Prosper. Follow Vance Ginn over on x.com. Vance, thanks for getting up so early, being generous with your time, and thanks for standing up for the principles of liberty, even when it's unpopular.
I'll keep doing it. You too. Talk
Thanks
to you
very
soon.
much. That's Vance Ginn. Let's give him a round of applause. Follow him over on X, again, at Vance Ginn, VanceGinn. You can find him over there. Vance Ginn, absolutely amazing. All right, I'm going to take a quick little break. I'll be right back. I think the bonus content might be a little buggy. Sorry about that. I tried to fix it. Don't know if it did. Yes, no, maybe so. Enjoy the bonus content. This week's theme, vice presidents who became president. Who could that be about? We'll be right back with more on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. In honor of Vice President Kamala Harris's unprecedented and undemocratic rise to the nomination for President of the United States, the Wake Up America show's theme this week looks at vice presidents who became presidents. Let's consider today Chester Alan Arthur's brave, short presidency. Chester Alan Arthur assumed the presidency with low public expectations, unaware by many that he was dealing with a terminal illness while advocating for government reforms and tax cuts during his single term in office in the 1880s. On November 18, 1886, Arthur passed away in New York City at 56. His doctor, Dr. George A. Peters, publicly confirmed Arthur had Bright's disease, a kidney ailment, and had known for about 6 months that his condition was terminal. The New York Times verified from a former Arthur official that at least Secretary of State Frederick Frelinghuysen knew in 1883 about Arthur's terminal condition. Arthur himself likely knew of his fate about a year after taking office. The succession issue was significant because there was no vice president serving under Arthur after President James Garfield's assassination. Arthur had been a surprising vice presidential pick for Garfield at the 1880 Republican Convention. Arthur, a New York attorney, rose to prominence as a skilled public administrator during the Civil War and as collector of the Port of New York. He was closely associated with Roscoe Conkling, a New York political boss. Arthur, though not directly accused of wrongdoing, was removed from his port collector position by President Rutherford B. Hayes in 1880, causing a rift within the Republican Party. Hayes opposed the patronage system Arthur supported. This patronage spoils system required kickbacks from port employees that went to Conkling's operations. In a surprising twist, Arthur received the 1880 vice presidential nomination without Conkling's prior approval. Arthur became vice president and replaced Garfield within 6 months after Garfield's assassination in July 1881. As president, Arthur set an independent course for his remaining 3 years in office. Arthur fought the spoils system he once supported, advocated for tariff relief for businesses, and sought tax breaks for taxpayers. Historians speculate his diagnosis with Bright's disease in October 1882 influenced his reformist streak. Bright's disease, a term no longer used, indicated deteriorating kidney function and potential heart problems. Despite his illness, Arthur continued to work towards significant reforms. In late 1882, a New York Herald report about Arthur's disease was countered by the White House, attributing his condition to a malaria flare-up, demonstrating 19th century spin control tactics. Despite his declining health, Arthur championed reforms, signing the Pendleton Civil Service Reform Act in 1883. This act banned kickbacks in the civil service and made merit the basis for promotion and pay. Arthur also sought lower tariffs and reduced patronage to address the large government budget surpluses of the 1880s, aiming to lower tax rates and return money to taxpayers. Arthur was known for his refined tastes and successfully lobbied Congress for White House renovations. However, due to his illness, he made a half-hearted bid for renomination in 1884, losing to James Blaine. After Arthur's death, newspaper editor and GOP supporter Alexander McClure remarked, "No man ever entered the presidency so profoundly and widely distrusted, and no one ever retired, more generally respected." Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Glad and thankful to have you here. Please do click that like button. If it's your first time here and you enjoy the content, we'd love to have you be a regular guest. The Wake Up America show streams live every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. It's a 2-hour live stream during the week in the mornings. It's a great way to start your day, as well as maybe a cup of Founding Flavors coffee. The Wake Up America show is part of the For Liberty Network. We're going to be launching 2 brand new shows coming this fall, and I'm so excited to introduce to you shows hosted by Brian Piotr and the King Libertarian, who will be joining us on their own show called Liberty Tonight, starting this fall. We are still working on Daniela Pensac's new show. We'll be putting together her items as well. So keep an eye out for more details about the new shows coming to the For Liberty Network this fall. And if I'm lucky, I can maybe get 1 or 2 more for you. So you'll have tons more great content. So a giant new Liberty Network is waiting for us on the horizon. And of course, all of your likes, all of your comments, all of your shares, and of course, all your financial contributions and purchases at the For Liberty shop have helped us to get to this point. Almost 2 years now on the Wake Up America show. Can you believe it? It's just flown by. We used to have like 25 people watching us in the morning. Now we will frequently have thousands of people tuning in and listening to the Wake Up America show live in the mornings and on the audio podcast sometimes later in the day. The For Liberty Network is dedicated to spreading the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty. And that's what we'll strive for, of course, as we build a network to monetize our efforts and hopefully become wealthy in the process, because we are capitalists after all. Yes. And I got a baby I got to take care of. I got a baby right now. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, yeah, real quick. If you haven't visited the For Liberty shop lately, you need to check it out because we are always adding new products. The Trump Defiant t-shirt is our latest bestseller. You can get that exclusively at forlibertyshop.com. But the entire Courage Under Fire collection is full of swag that you cannot get on any other website. Everybody's trying to mimic my badassery, but no one has the Donald Trump Lives Japanese manga tee. As you can see over here, it says in perfect Japanese, Donald Trump wa itike iru. Hai, hai, arigatou gozaimasu. So the Donald Trump Lives Japanese manga tee, another must buy at the For Liberty shop. We also have, thanks to our friend who has been helping us out, especially while Steffi and I were out, started a brand new collection of, this is apparently what the kids are all into these days, the pocket tees. Like it's a t-shirt with a pocket. And the cool thing about our pocket tees, if you can see, this one says on the back, my pronouns are we/the/people. Very funny. But we started adding our new For Liberty shop logo. So check it out. Right there on the pocket, you can see the sweet little eagle with sunglasses at the For Liberty shop logo. We've undergone a rebrand. It's no longer the AP For Liberty shop. We are undergoing a rebrand, and we are now the For Liberty shop. It's still hot outside, so grab yourself a Donald Trump album blackout cover tee, unisex jersey tank. So men and ladies can grab this awesome Donald Trump album cover with explicit lyrics. A unisex jersey tank in the Courage Under Fire collection, again, exclusively at For Liberty Shop. But if you're gearing up for fall, or maybe you live in the frigid white north, then we've also got some crew neck sweaters as well as hoodies from the Trump Lives collection. Stickers, MAGA bullet hole hats. If you want to save some money, we've got the spin to win. You just put in your phone number there, and you've got an opportunity to collect. Some people are getting like the 20% off, and that's a really good deal. They save a lot of money if they use that spin to win. So check it out at forlibertyshop.com. What say you? There we go. The best campaign ad this fall for the Republicans is a parody of a Kamala Harris campaign ad. Take a listen.
I, Kamala Harris, am your Democrat candidate for president because Joe Biden finally exposed his senility at the debate. Thanks, Joe. I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist. I may not know the first thing about running the country, but remember, that's a good thing if you're a deep state puppet. I had 4 years under the tutelage of the ultimate deep state puppet, a wonderful mentor, Joe Biden. Joe taught me rule number 1, carefully hide your total incompetence. I take insignificant things and I discuss them as if they're significant. And I believe that exploring the significance of the insignificant is in itself significant.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time, and there is such great significance to the passage of time.
Another trick is trying to sound black. I pretend to celebrate Kwanzaa, and in my speeches, I always do my best Barack Obama impression.
So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
And okay, look, maybe my work addressing the root causes of the border crisis were catastrophic, but my knowledge of international politics is truly shocking.
The United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. It is an alliance that is strong and enduring.
And just remember, when voting this November, it is important to see what can be unburdened by what has been. And by what has been, I mean Joe Biden. You think the country went to shit over the past 4 years? You ain't seen nothing yet.
Just remember, that is a parody. Thank you to Andy Opperman for becoming a monthly subscriber to Founding Flavors Coffee. Looks like you bought it for a friend. Andy's so generous. Thanks for helping us to grow the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty. The For Liberty Network definitely will have a brick with Andy Opperman's name in it whenever we open up an office one day. Thank you, Andy Opperman, for all of your generosity. Let's give it up for Andy. one of our biggest benefactors. The For Liberty Network is growing in large part thanks to financial contributions and purchases at For Liberty Shop because of people like Courtney Conover and L-Dubs, Andy Opperman, people like Camellia Peterson and Quest Fanning, and so many of you who have been so generous in helping us to grow the show. Not only are we building a new Liberty network that will compete with the likes of Reason Magazine and others out there, not that there are many libertarian podcast networks. We will be one of the big ones. But you're also helping to support my growing family. Little baby Hazel, Hazel Rose Peterson was born just last week. Little sweet baby. So thank you for helping us to support our family as well. That's right. We got to outbreed the libs. All right. Which direction am I going to go on this one here? Kamala Harris is saying what she will do in her first 100 days as president of the United States. Let's take a listen to what she has to say.
And if they fail to do it, then I will take executive action. And specifically what I will do is put in place a requirement that for anyone who sells more than 5 guns a year, they are required to do background checks when they sell those guns.
Marketplace.
I will require that for any gun dealer that breaks the law, the ATF take their license. And by the way, ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Well, the ATF has been doing a lot of the A and the T, but not much of the F.
So she's saying that she will essentially violate the Second Amendment by executive order. So what more can you expect? Kamala Harris promises in her first 100 days to take executive orders against the Second Amendment. So there's a lot to say about that. But I think that this is a good time to talk about a story which I found fascinating related to the Second Amendment. A former CNN anchor of all people, is leading a major challenge in defense of the Second Amendment. This is a fascinating story. For years, this former CNN anchor, her name was Lynn Russell, was the familiar face of headline news for the country. She may be making headlines soon again as the lead plaintiff in what could be a major Second Amendment challenge in Washington, D.C. Russell is challenging the city's prohibition on what's called off-body carrying of weapons, including keeping a handgun in a purse. That type of off-body carry is precisely what may have saved her life in a shootout with an armed assailant in 2015. Listen to this incredible story. Russell's nightmare began when the armed assailant grabbed her outside of their motel in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and forced her into her room. He then threw her across the room onto the bed as her husband, Chuck DeCaro, he's a former CNN correspondent as well, was coming out of the shower. Russell then had the amazing calmness and control to suggest to her husband that there might be something in her purse that the man would want. Inside was her gun, and DeCaro pulled it out and exchanged fire with the man. DeCaro, Lynn's husband, was shot 3 times, but he survived. The assailant did not. And both Russell and DeCaro showed amazing courage in this. The fact that DeCaro would come out of the shower completely naked and immediately engage in a gunman's shootout is, I mean, that's worthy of a Die Hard sequel, writes Jonathan Turley over at jonathanturley.org. Russell is now leading the fight for others, particularly women who use off-body carry. Almost knocked my founding flavors over. I'm so excited about this story. For many women, a holster is not a convenient option if you have a dress or other outfits, but there are guns and purses that are specifically designed for women to blend into their clothing styles. So in Washington, D.C., you are not allowed to carry off of your body any style of weapon. A holster on a dress outfit, of course, is also more likely to stand out and could serve as attraction for felons who are looking to steal a weapon, right? They call this imprinting. If women tend to wear, tighter clothing, especially in the summer months, that's going to be pretty obvious of where your firearm might be. So the district is trying to protect their law of not allowing people to carry weapons off of their body. And this former CNN anchor is stepping in and suing the district over her right to bear arms, citing the case of the time that she was in Arizona and of that incredible story of her husband reaching into her purse, grabbing her reaching in her purse, grabbing her gun, and having a shootout with the felon, and then killing him there. An incredible story, and we certainly wish this. How often do we find ourselves wishing a CNN anchor good luck? An incredible story. Talus 1776 says, and that alone is enough reason to not vote for her. Talking about Kamala Harris. Any politician, no matter how good they are on the issues, if they in any way want to restrict or take guns, should be an automatic nope. Yes, it is a shame that we don't have more people who are pro-Second Amendment. It's very rare that we find a true pro-Second Amendment candidate, especially for President of the United States. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this story or more. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. Kamala Harris promises to unleash an army of women like this on us if she becomes President of the United States.
Is this you?
Yeah, me.
Okay, so you need to be over there.
Why is that?
Are you a student?
No.
Okay, so then you need to be over there or at the transformational link. Those are our excessive activity spaces.
But isn't this America where I have freedom of speech?
I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just letting you know. So.
And what happens if I don't move?
So, well, then I need to call the police department. So, just to let you know, those are the two spots that you can be at.
Well,
okay?
I'm in America.
Okay.
So I think I can be here.
You cannot be here. You've been told to move. You need to move back over to the Kirchhoff, or we'll call and have you removed.
If GVPD tells me to move, then I will move.
You've got to be kidding me.
No. Because this is America.
This is Grand Valley's campus.
In America.
Oh, whatever.
If I have to notify GVPD, you will be trespassed from the university and will be arrested.
For what? Using my freedom of speech?
Sorry to interrupt.
Give it up for that man standing up to the Karens. These liberal Karens are the ones that the Democrats want to unleash on us, the tyranny of the gynocracy. The ladies are very upset, the left liberal ladies, over comments by J.D. Vance and others that we should not be incentivizing the liberal cat ladies from ruling over us. Aren't you tired of these Karens ruling this country with an iron fist? It's time for this country to once again be ruled by white men, and white men exclusively and only. And we should hire white men for the simple fact that they are white and are men, but specifically straight white men, not gay white men, unless they are conservative Republicans, in which case we'll allow it. But you will have to show your log cabin card at the door. Hiring practices should incentivize the hiring of straight white men. Again, gay white men are allowed if they are showing a log cabin Republican card, because intrinsically what is important is the fact that we are straight white men. We built this country, and damn it, we're taking it back. What say you, straight white men? Let's have a little diversity, equity, and inclusion for straight white men, and only hire people based on the intrinsic character or quality of their skin and not their character. The Wall Street Journal is out with a story this morning on the war between men and women, one we've been documenting quite well in conversations between myself and Camelia Peterson, and even Daniela Pensax got in on a little bit of that as well. The new article that just dropped over at the Wall Street Journal this morning is titled, America's New Political War Pits Young Men Against Young Women. I'm voting for the straight white men. Gay white men, okay, again, provided that they do show a membership in the log cabin community. Colin Mertz, a 23-year-old farmer in North Dakota, believes American men like himself have been targeted by liberals, the push for diversity. Good for you, Colin. You are not blind or stupid, it appears. It would seem the white male is the enemy of the left. You are correct, said Mertz, who voted for Trump in 2020 and plans to do so again in November. Good for you. Vote for the white man to take back that which he founded. But Lauren Starrett, a 28-year-old, heavily overweight engineer in Cincinnati, the Wall Street Journal, it should be noted, did not write heavily overweight, but they did include a photograph of her eating herself to death in what appears to be a very porcine photograph that is probably the best picture of her ever taken. Lauren Starrett feels a personal threat from conservatives. Good. Seeking to scale back access to abortion and other rights. You're right. We're coming for you. And we're going to put you on a diet in a camp where you can only exit if you go through a very small door. So you're free to leave, provided you can fit. It's kind of terrifying, really, said Stark. Good. We should make them afraid again. The forces of American culture and politics are pushing men and women under age 30 into opposing camps, creating a new fault line in the electorate and adding an unexpected wild card into the 2024 presidential election. I'm here for it. Voters under 30 have been a pillar of the Democratic coalition. LW78 says, good luck with that YouTube meeting, Austin. Yeah, it's going to be a slaughterhouse. They're going to kill me. I hope they understand that, like, this is like part of this is satire. Like to some extent it's tongue in cheek, but like all comedy has a bit of truth to it, right? Young men now favor Republican control of Congress and Trump for president after backing Biden and Democratic lawmakers in 2020. Good for you, men. We're men. We're men in tights. Before President Biden ended his candidacy this month, Trump was winning support from a majority of men under 30. If that holds until Election Day, Republicans would win young men for the first time in more than 2 decades. Good. You are looking with your eyes, young men. You are seeing what is right in front of you. Young men backed Trump over Biden by 14 points in the merged journal polls, Wall Street Journal, a substantial swing from 2020. In that election, they supported Biden by 15 points. Young women backed Biden by 30 points and Democratic control of Congress by 34 points. Ladies, is there nothing that you touch that you will not destroy? The gender gap extends to opposing views of abortion, student loan forgiveness, and other issues affecting the lives of young adults. Men and women voting Republican and Democrat in this election. The question now is whether Harris will recapture the support of young men. Spoiler alert, probably not going to happen, or push more of them away. Harris's candidacy removes Biden's age as a voter concern and instead spotlights social, economic, and policy issues that are driving young men and women apart. So, question is, what will you do? Will we vote for the white man because he is a white man? We say yes. Because it's funny? Because the Democratic Party is racist and sexist against us? And so therefore, I think that all men recognize that if you're going to vote for baby killing and for stealing all of the money that we men work so hard for, then we're going to vote to take this country back, damn it. Yeah, as you know, I do have a meeting with YouTube later this afternoon where we're going to watch my live streams together, and they're probably going to watch this one, and they're probably going to ban me from the platform as soon as they watch this one. So wish me luck. I'm really just doing it as a formality because I do think that long-term, there's no place for people like me really in YouTube. Like the fact that I'm still allowed on there is probably an oversight on their part. And that eventually I'll probably just have to be on other platforms because I just don't go along with the regime's opinions. I hope you guys enjoyed the Wake Up America show. We're back, baby, and I have a baby. Baby Hazel P for Liberty is live and kicking and out of the womb, and mommy is doing well and healthy and everybody's happy. The Peterson family is glad to celebrate the arrival of our newest redheaded libertarian for our family's little baby Hazel. Has come into this world, and she is a beautiful little bundle of joy. She's gorgeous, she's cute, and I am sure that she will be a force when she grows up as well. Thank you guys very much for tuning into the show. Don't forget, if you haven't, click the like button before you leave. And if you enjoy the content, click follow as well. And we'll see you guys here tomorrow. Don't forget, baby Hazel will make her first appearance on the show this coming Friday. So you don't want to miss Freedom Family Friday. Justin's back. Hazel is here. It's going to be the best Freedom Family Friday in history. So we'll see you then. And we'll see you right back here tomorrow morning, though, on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Bye, guys. Thanks for everything.
expanse of time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up America. They began humbly, with just 20 souls tuning in, learning, listening, and though challenges arose, like the looming shadow of YouTube demonetization, their spirit never waned. And now, thanks to you, thousands rise with the sun to join them, to listen, to engage, to be a part of a community. So here's to you, and to Wake Up America, for memories shared, for friends made, for the journey ahead, and for never, ever forgetting to rise and freedom. Happy anniversary.
I would go and I would fight this battle for us.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unveil your space with our custom metal.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy
crafted
is
with love and a bit of
libertarianism.
libertarian magic.
Well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Customize your own metal sign today.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
And what is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights.
We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to.
We embrace all segments, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit PetersonVoiceStudio.com and sign up for remote lessons tailored just for you. Let's begin this melodious journey together.
In a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conservative so-called is the one that
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.
Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot redheaded libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state! Reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!